Moonshine Horsepower Pro-Stock Header Pipe install video. You're watching this most likely because you bought this system. We appreciate your business. It's a really, really nice system that fits underneath the factory heat shields. So I'm just gonna dive into the parts that we have. We have a contents list right here. You are getting a front cylinder header, which is that one. This guy is the rear. And then you have an awesome full-size crossover underneath your bike, which is going to be running your muffler on the left side of the motorcycle. A couple things you want to check first to make sure is if you have all the parts. You're going to have flanges, really nice pieces. These are CNC'd. You're going to have spiral rings to hold the flanges, which will go onto your flange. So the first couple pieces you want to make sure you have is your exhaust gaskets. You're going to have two. You're going to have two exhaust flanges and two spiral retaining rings, okay? And these are gonna be installed on your spigot. So the first thing you have to do is take your flange. It is going to slide over your spigot. When you do this, you don't want this rubbing on here because it could scratch. It's gonna be under your heat shields for most of you guys for install, so it doesn't matter as much. But after that, that is where you are going to install your spiral flange. So this spiral guy, it's real simple. I like to just walk him around in a circle. It's that easy. This guy goes here, and that's how the exhaust is going to be held onto the motorcycle. A note, do not over tighten these. These guys are not real thick. These guys can bend. It doesn't take a lot. You are, just like anything, after the bike rides and you have this gasket on here compressed, it will vibrate and condense the gasket a little bit more. So after initial install, you are gonna have to torque it. I recommend every time you service your bike to check the fasteners and the nuts on your exhaust studs to make sure everything is torqued. So number one thing we see when bikes come in for servicing is they are missing an exhaust nut. All right, so you're gonna have four nice little ARP 12-point nuts. This is the complete bracket that goes underneath the bike where your transmission is. So it bolts up to the transmission. This guy hangs down. You are going to have a bolt. You're going to have a washer, a lock washer, and a nut. All right, so for the crossover, we have the rear pipe hanger bracket that goes on the transmission. And this piece is gonna be towards the back of the bike and hang off the side of the transmission. We have the contoured hanger bracket bolt. So this guy goes on the outside here. We put the washer, the nut. So the bolt is going towards the middle of the bike. We then run the lock washer and the nut. So this is exactly how that system should be. This guy's on the outside of the bracket with the washer because you have the slotted hole. Lock washer on the inside with the nut and go up on the transmission. That is going to hang. Through our crossover pipe. We are then going to use the larger clamp. This is the clamp that goes on this guy, and we run it this way. So you're going to install this on this pipe first. You're going to put it on underneath the bike, and then you're going to put your clamp over top, and we're going to torque it down, and the spec is right on the screen. Here's the spec for this clamp and the torque spec for the nut and the lock washers right here as well. This guy is your front header clamp. This is going to go inside your motor. You have a male and a female piece, and that guy is going to get installed right here, and it's going to clamshell your front header pipe in that guy. We want the exhaust to be able to move. That's why it's this design. You're gonna retain the factory nut that goes on there, and it's gonna go to the factory torque spec your stock exhaust was under. So to clamp the rear crossover pipe to the header, you're gonna slide your bracket on. You can slide it on your crossover, which one first. What you wanna make sure happens is you want to make sure the nut is on the bottom side and pointed to the back of the motorcycle. So some guys are going to run in a little bit of an angle like that. We'll show you when it's installed up under the bike and give you the torque specs for that guy too. So pretty easy, not a lot of pieces here. We just got to make sure they're in the right spot and everything gets put on correctly. So a couple other things that are going to come with the kit: 18mm bung blocks. So our exhaust is set up for both O2s. We are set up for the wideband. We are set up for the narrows. When you get yours, these are already installed for the widebands. It's a bigger plug, and we give you this bolt for the narrow bands in case you are running the wideband. So it's set up for both. We give you both set of plugs. Make sure you get the right one in. And when you install these, if you want to take them out later, please put a dab of anti-seize on them before you put them into the stainless steel. Steel and stainless steel do not like each other a lot, so if you want to take that back out later, please make sure you have a little bit of anti-seize on those before they are installed. Torque spec for your wideband right here. Torque spec for your rear O2 or for the bolt plug right here. So we provide 2 larger band clamps in the contents, and the reason being is the exhaust is a lot larger back here in the merge collector. So you are going to take out the stock band clamps from your heat shield and replace them with the larger ones. Typically, we'll actually run them in this farther back spot on the exhaust instead of up forward. Up to you, depending on what system you have, how your heat shields are fitting. We'll dive into it right now.
All right, here we go. Here's the install. Here is the front flange going on the front primary exhaust pipe, followed by the spiral ring. On the flange, there is a recess. The recess part of that exhaust flange goes over top and faces the spiral ring. Next, he's grabbing the exhaust gaskets and we're putting those in the exhaust port of each head. So now he's sliding over the front male and female exhaust hanger for the front primary pipe. And he's installing the front primary pipe first. And he's already got the O2 sensor installed. At this point, you want to make sure that is already in your pipe for ease. As you can see, he's fitting it, make sure everything fits. Hangs the bracket over the factory location. He's grabbing the 12-point ARP nuts, which he's going to install. If you notice his setup, he has a long extension and a swivel, and he's going to torque those to 8 to 10 foot-pounds. At this point of the build, please leave them loose so everything goes together. You will actually do your final torque specs after you have everything hung, including the mufflers. This is the rear primary pipe going on. As you can see, since he's already got the front one on, he has to guide the rear primary over the front and then line it up and get the exhaust flange put over the studs. Here comes those 12-point ARP nuts. Once again, just hand tight right now, nothing too crazy until you get the whole system installed. He's gonna guide his wiring for his O2 sensors where he wants them. These are the transmission bolts that he has already taken out that we have to reuse to hang the transmission bracket for the crossover. Blue lock type is recommended. It's going to go back through the bracket into the transmission at 7 to 11 foot-pounds of torque. See, you can tell Jason's OG because he doesn't wear gloves. All the young guys, you got to pull the gloves out. Them old guys, they like that smell of oil, dirt, metal on their hands. This is the crossover, the full-size crossover. Jason has the clamp where it's going to go. So right here, there's a clamp that goes from the rear header to the crossover. He has it pointed backwards, and he has the clamp that hangs the pipe on the transmission hanger. And this will allow you guys to see the orientation that we like the best. There is a lock washer on the bolt for the hanger bracket, but just to make sure it doesn't come off, Jason puts a little bit of blue Loctite on there, and he's going to torque that guy down to spec. Now that we got the full Pro-Stock header hung, we're putting on a pair of MHP Pro-Stock mufflers. You can tell this is the right side because it's a lot larger opening in the muffler compared to the left side. Left side is a smaller diameter. We're going to use the factory bolts that were in the factory exhaust for the rear muffler. The front header pipe clamp to muffler is going to be 38 to 43 foot-pounds of torque, and the muffler support bolts in the back that are reusing the factory bolts are 14 to 18 foot-pounds. Recommend some blue Loctite on those as well. Now Jason's got the whole system on. He's going to make sure everything is right where he wants it. He's going to go back up front to the header bolts on the flanges, and he's going to torque them down to final torque specs. He's then going to torque the front primary header pipe clamp that is on the side of the engine down to torque, and then he's going to retorque everything behind that to make sure it's all to spec. The key to this clamp is to have the worm on top. It gives you more ground clearance, it's out of the way. It seems to work the best up there, and it's visually the best appearing. All right, critical. Make sure your mufflers, before you torque them down, are the same length. There is a little bit of room front to back on your mufflers, so before you torque them down and get them all clamped up, make sure they're exactly even between left and right, forward to back. Last step, factory heat shields back on the header, and you're about ready for a ride.